Okay, today I have discussed this idea of what it is that it makes a conversation about code productive. So how, what are the elements of a productive conversation about code, and also how you can get there. I discussed the intentions that you should have in your head when making decisions in conversations about code, and also mentioned some tools that you can use to implement those intentions. But in that video I didn't have time to show actually those tools, and this is the goal of the video now. So and I'm going to be focusing on R. That's the language that we use mostly here at work at 2 degrees. So the first tool I would like to talk about is a tool that is useful when you have not a lot of code, when you just have a few lines of code, just a code chunk that you need to share with someone. And in that case, you may find very useful to use the package reprex, because the package reprex implements this idea that a productive conversation about code should have code that runs, code that I don't have to run if I choose not to, but code that it is easy to run if I do choose to. So I'm going to show you that on this RStudio Cloud project. So how it works. So say that you want to do something with a dataset empty cars. You could and you want to attach some packages and do something like filter seal greater than 4, I guess, right? So let's remove this line because it's irrelevant. So let's say that we have these 2 lines of code, this one and this one. So you want to share this with someone for whatever reason. Okay, so you can highlight the code and come here to addings and type reprex, and you will have options. Render reprex will give you an interface where you can choose a bunch of options, including the idea of appending the session information, which is something that it is one of the requirements to make the reproducible example actually reproducible, right? They need to know what is what's this? Happy oh my god, user supply code found. Okay, so that's weird. So let's do it with reprex selection. I think because there you go. So let's do it again. So I highlight the code, I click here on addings, reprex, render reprex. Sorry, this the console is now busy because I didn't provide an answer here. So let's do it again. So go to addings and I can click render selection. I said that the code was on the clipboard and I was wrong. So I can say now that it's on the current selection. That's why it failed. And now I'm going to say append the session information and I render. Okay, so that will produce the output here, but also will, in this case, because I'm on RStudio Cloud, it's asking me if I want to open this file here on the right, if I want to open to copy paste it somewhere. So I'm going to say yes. As you can see, I have here now code that I can select and copy, and then depending on how big this is, I could choose to copy in one place or another. The one place I recommend would be a gist. You paste it in a gist. You can create a new gist with, go to GitHub. Actually, let's do it from 0. I'm going to leave this page. So you go here to plus. Let's start from GitHub. GitHub.com. There you go. You go to the plus. Go to gists, new gist, and there you have to type the name of the file. So say my reprex.md. Remember to do MD because the MD files render on GitHub as beautiful HTML files. So basically with this you are generating a web page for your output, right? For your code and your output. So you just paste what you got from R, and you can create a secrets gist. Could be if you have a conversation that is private, but most of the time it should be fine to do public depending on your situation. So when you click there, you can see that you have the code that you type, the output that you got, and even syntax highlighting, which is great. And then you just share the link to this gist. You can share it on Slack, you can share it via email, whatever way you find it useful to share this with the person that you're going to have a conversation about this code. And the thing is that they can also highlight this. One thing I didn't mention is that this session information is collapsed here, as you can see, right? So they can expand it and know exactly which platform were you using, which version of R. In this case, the platform was Ubuntu, and then each of the packages, which versions they were. So that meets the requirement to provide the information about the system. But also notice that how this code is easy to run. If the person having a conversation with you chooses to run this code, they can just copy this thing entirely, including the output, and this won't produce a problem because the output is commented, right? So they can now go to their console. Let's clean the console. So this could be now the reviewer. They can just paste what you copied, right, including the output, and they could run it. The output will be commented out, so it won't produce any problem, and here is their own output. Or even if they choose, let's create a new, this one, a new R5 here. If they chose, they could do also reprex clean. So that will kind of look into the clipboard. No input provided to the keyboard is not available. Okay, maybe because in an RStudio Cloud, I think the clipboard is not immediately available. But reprex clean will clean the output. Let's see if it works like that. No, not in this way. Yeah, so if you have code in your clipboard, which I can't hear because I'm on RStudio Cloud, then reprex clean will remove the output and just leave you with the code. But even if you copy the whole thing, code and output, that will be fine because that's easy to run because the output is commented out. Okay, so reprex. I think let's go back to the. So we covered this line with one code chunk, anything between one and a few lines. Reprex is your friend. You can share it once you have the output on Slack, GitHub issues, or Gist. One thing I didn't cover, but it's important to mention, is that sometimes the data is not so easy to get, and you have to include it with the reprex, right? So how do you go about that? Okay, there's a couple of ways. So if you can create with the function dput, you can create text output from the data set that then you can copy from the console. All these text will recreate the empty cars data set. So it does look a little weird when you paste it because you get all these. So basically what you're going to create now is the empty cars or my empty cars, right? So you paste what you copy from the console. This is what it looks like, right? This here and so on and so forth. But the beauty is that now, here my empty cars has exactly that data set, right? So you could include data in your script as a script, so without needing to resource to other kind of more esoteric approaches. But sometimes you find it more convenient to share, like an entire file, like this. Let's do now my empty cars. Let's rename this thing so it's clear. Sometimes, if you have data in a data folder, which I do here, I have here my data folder, and I see empty cars here. You could read it locally, right, in your RStudio project, and it will work for you. But the problem is that when you want to do this on a reprex, this won't be so easy, right? So if you want to do the reprex selection, this should fail, right? You should throw errors because the reprex creates a parallel session in a temporary working directory, and in that temporary directory, the data folder does not exist. How do you go about that? Okay, there's a couple of ways. So one way would be to put this file in a gist of itself. You could move that file to GitHub somewhere and then just provide the link, because the read CSV can read URLs directly, and not just paths to folders in your computer, but also can read URLs. So that's one approach. And the other approach could be to use reprex directly. So reprex takes a number of arguments, and this one called outFile is very little known, but it does allow you to pass code that runs not on this temporary weird session that reprex creates for you, but on the working directory that you have. So if I say output file equals NA, and now that I'm here, I'm also going to say session information equals true. Then reprex will produce a session information little drop-down menu, and also it will run on the current working directory. And then all the expressions that you want to run in your reprex, you have to pass them as a whole thing in within curly braces. So let's run this right here. We don't need to use the add-in now because we are doing it like right away. Sorry, I think this was 0 to exit. This was from before. Let's restart my session just to be sure that we are doing the right thing. Let's clear this viewer with the broom, right? All gone, and let's start from scratch. So I'm going to highlight this code and I run my reprex. I'm pressing Ctrl Enter, and as you can see here on the right, that code now did run. It read that file from the data folder because this out file NA, that's what it does. And in the end, it's also creating the session information thingy, which comes from this here. And then all the code that is within these braces is what you see here. So now with that, again, you could go to your gist and put it there, or you could go to a GitHub repository. Let's go to some GitHub repository, say this one, demo, this one here, and you could create an issue, go to the issues tab, create a new one, and there you could say, I want to report a bug. Hello, I want to report a bug. There you go. Okay, please check this out. And here I could, paste my reprex from here. So because I'm in RStudio Cloud, it's asking me if I want to open the file for manual copy. Again, RStudio Cloud doesn't make the clipboard available immediately, so I had to say yes here, and now I just copied it. So I'm ready to go. I can now paste this on the GitHub issue. So as you can see, just by clicking the preview, I'm not going to save it. This issue, I'm not actually going to create it. But you can see that it looks great, right? It also has syntax highlighting, and it also has this drop-down menu for session information. Okay, let's close this. Let's close my gist as well. Let's close reprex. Let's go back to here, actually. So what happens when you have a whole file with code as opposed to just one chunk? In that case, I recommend creating a new Markdown document. So that's easy to do from file with file new file, of course, Markdown right here. Or you can also use this one here, right? Markdown. So you could do an HTML and then change the output format, or you could come here to template, and you will see that it says GitHub document Markdown. So you could do that. Basically, all it's similar to what you would get by default if you do just the vanilla document that you get, which is an HTML, right? Except that here it says HTML, and then you would change it to GitHub document. So that's the one that I recommend. So what I recommend for your GitHub document is to also add as output to add the setting comment equals the same that reprex uses, this one. And the reason is because then they can just copy and paste this, and the output won't break the run on the console, right? So that's something I strongly recommend. You may also use error equals true, which means that this file will render even if there is an error in the script. It's just that you will see on the console, you will see you will see where the errors are coming from. And then another setting that I like is the collapse equals true, which simply makes the output a bit more compact. And then just in chunk outputs, as you would normally do, you just paste the code that you want to discuss with your colleagues. Let's close this one here, right? So here, this is one chunk. Let's say, let's tidy this thing up a little bit. Let's, just to show, how this could be more than one chunk. Let's do something like, okay, packages. Here we have the packages, the data. So when I say packages and data, you actually have a proper conversation. You will start, actually writing, what problem you're trying to solve, what expectations you have, or whatever you're discussing with this code review. And in Markdown in particular, I recommend using the here package to create paths, because that will make it easy for anyone to move this file around within the project. I don't want to get into too much detail, but basically Markdown has special notion about what the directory is, and the default is the directory where the document lives, and the more common notion of the working directory is the project directory, which you could change from here, but instead I do not recommend it. I recommend to capture that in code by just using the package here, and thus we will use here the package here. So now I render this. When I render this, this will prompt me to save the file. Let's have a conversation about this code. So this is the file that I'm creating. I save that file. It now lives this in my system here. This is my file, this one here, and this is the output that clicking that button render produce. As you can see, this file has all the meets all the requirements that we have been discussing. So it has code, right, that runs. You can see how it runs. It has code that the other person doesn't have to run because they see the output already, and it has code that if they choose to run it, it's easy to run because they can copy and paste this in the console, and it will work because even output is commented out, right? So it does meet the requirements. So while I'm here, I'm also going to clean all these files here. Are not files that I'm going to add to the commit now. So let me delete them. Yeah. So those were files generated by the process of reprex. But what I want to show you now is, how would I go about sharing that file on GitHub, and why I believe that GitHub documents are so cool. So my code, my little horrible commit message. Of course, you should do a much better work than the one that I'm doing. Actually, to make this, let's actually create. Let's create. So actually, what I wanted to do is to create a pull request, and I forgot that was my intention. So let's revert this git revert head. No, actually git reset. This is something that you don't need to know. Head one commit before the head. This is what I want. Git reset. Head one commit before the head. So why I'm doing this, let me show you. Let's refresh this. So this is, before I created a commit. I wanted to reset it because before I actually create a commit, what I do want to do is to create, to initialize a pull request. So let's do pr init, and let's do, the branch is gonna be code review. So this created, this branch code review. And now I can, add my commit. Right, and push it to GitHub as following the recommendation here with pr push. So that will create a pull request. right? So what I want to do is to show you how the pull request itself is an amazing platform for having code reviews. So you create a pull request. There you go. If you wanted, you could also, so I just created a normal pull request, but you can also convert it to a draft. So if this conversation shouldn't end, right away on including that, change that you're proposing directly to the repo, then you just create a draft so that, it's more clear that you don't want to merge this, you just want to start the conversation. So what's the good thing about the GitHub document? Like two things. So when you click here, I'm just going to, actually, let's show it to you in a different way. So this is the our Markdown file that you wrote, and this is the MD output. So if you look for this output on GitHub, you can click here on the Git thing and go view this file on GitHub. So you can see that the output already looks awesome here. So you should just share this link with your reviewer so that they have all they need, right? So they see the code, they see your pros, they see the output, and they can easily copy paste each chunk into their console, and it should just work again because the output is already commented out. So this meets the expectations of what makes a productive code review or a conversation about code. So so that's great. The MD output immediately becomes a web page to host your code and output, right? And then where do you have your conversation? So let's go back to the file that the little table. So if you have a full file, you can create a GitHub document. And where to discuss it? Okay, discuss it in the pull request. Why? Because where is our pull request? So this is the pull request here, right, in the repository that was just pushed. Because the reviewer can come here to the files change, or even yourself. Even you can review a pull request for yourself. You go to the tab files changed, and there they can have a look at the different files. This is the file, the data in empty car CSV. They can check when they feel that okay, that file it's view, it's okay, and they can make also comments about specific lines. So for example, they could say something like, okay, got it. Something like use a more informative title, right? And they can start a review, right? This comment is going to be pending until they add all the comments that they see about this code. They could say, "Ooh, nice options," right? And all these comments are now pending until it looks good. They also see, of course, the output in MD, which they can click as checked, as viewed, and see what happens. So each comment that one person writes leaves a space there for where is the nice options? Let's do a little nice face. So leaves another space for someone else to reply and even to solve the conversation. So let's see how this looks like, not on the files change tab, but in the conversations tab. So all the comments that were added are now appearing, under a general, high-level comment that I'm about to write. All the little comments appear under it, right? And then the other person can, answer and resolve the conversation, which I cannot in this log in with this user. But if I created a new window and went to a user that has more privileges, this one here, for example, I'm gonna log in as someone else. Oh, well, this window is not working, but here. So let's go to the same repo, but from like an account that I have privileges to do more things. Okay, if I go here, I could see that says pull request is work in progress. File changed. I don't seem to see the conversation. Maybe because I need to. Okay, because it's pending. There you go. So the person who when you are going to review a pull request, you make all the comments and they are all pending until you write a high-level comment. Looks good to me. And maybe I could say neat, meaning that this is something that you can not do, but it would be nice to do. Use a more informative title. So okay, I made that comment. I click here and submit the review, and those comments now appear. So my high level comment here, and under it all the little comments that could be resolved in the conversation. Actually, I didn't need even this other window here. Was the reason why this resolved conversation wasn't appearing is simply because I hadn't actually finalized the review. So there you go. That's a platform that you can use for conversation. The other person can say, yeah, thanks, I want to do this at this time, and then you just try to create a comment and solve the conversation, right? So all the conversations that are solved stay associated to the pull request, right? But they are kind of compressed so that they don't contaminate the discussion. So if they are solved, they are already there, compressed, but you can expand it and see what the discussion was. So all this is an amazing interface for having conversations about code, of course, because that's exactly what it specializes at, right? So let's go back to the table. So we already discussed reprexes shared via Slack or GitHub issues or gists. And we discussed now one file, shared via a GitHub document, and finally having the conversation via a pull request. And now let's discuss what happens if instead of one file, you have multiple files. Well, same thing really, because notice how what I have just committed is not just one file, but two files, or actually three files: the data file, the RMD file, and so let's go to the repo. So the files that change in the pull request, actually here. So this is the main repo, the upstream repo. If I go to the pull request, add my code, this is the pull request that I still in review. Actually, it's already reviewed, so I can say ready for review. It can be merged. It does no longer need to be in the draft mode. And as you can see, there's three files that change, right? So the approach that I was showing now is mostly, the last approach, probably, this one with multiple files. And one way in which you can share or have your conversation is by just creating an RStudio Cloud project, right? Because once you do that, say that let's go to here, to home. Let's see if I have. Actually, I do have the demo. So basically, whatever project that you have on RStudio Cloud, like this one here, you can just share the link with your reviewer, and they can open that RStudio Cloud instance and start immediately working with it, because it will have all the packages that you installed in it. So one thing that you need to kind of keep in mind is that you may need to change the access permission from just you to say everyone, or you may need to be a little bit more I don't know if you can set here like specific people, maybe not, but yeah, if you do everyone, then you can share the link as you see here, share project link with in this case, let's send it to myself, email.com, this review this project. I have already installed all required packages, and then you send, right? So great. So you have made the life of the reviewer easier. You have enabled a productive conversation about code by creating an environment, an R environment that has every dependency of the code that you are running. And thus, the reviewer can, if they need to choose it, so they can see it on RStudio, on GitHub, because you can share with them the link to the MD file. So this file is it here? Yeah, the link to the MD file. So you just share with them this link. They can see the code, and if should they need to run it, then they can use the link that you send them, and they will land in a clone of this project, which includes the packages that you installed for them. So also, now let me show you what you could do if you're going to share just one line, one file. So say that I want to share this one empty file that will render nicely on GitHub. Well, in that case, you could also go to the repository, right, and see how it has like add file here. So you can click and create a new file or upload a file. So if you say that you have the file in your computer, so let's do that to show you how it works. But first, let's collapse this here. So we are in the demo project here. Yep. And say that I have this file downloaded to my computer. I can do export to download, right? That's downloaded here. So let's go and show it. That file is now on my system. Files, downloads, this one right here. So what I'm gonna do now is, from GitHub, I can go to add file and upload files, right? So I can drag the file that I have on my system there. Here is the file. This is what it looks like. Let's see. Uploads. Disable file require push access to. Okay, good. Because I'm logged in as someone different that has no access to this repository. That's why I could not do it. But you can still do it in a different way. So you could create a branch. If you do not have access, then you create a branch like my conversation. Switch. Let's see, nothing to show. Branches. Nothing to show. Let's do it differently. We are in. Let's go to forks. Let's go to my fork. Sorry. There you go. So here we are in my fork, and in my fork I can do just about whatever I want. So I should be able to create a new branch. My review. So when I type the name of a new branch, then I have this option to create it. So I cannot create a new branch on the upstream, but I can create one on my own fork. Right, so that then I can add a new file. I can say let's upload one file, and I can choose the file from my system. So here in downloads, the file was called this. So let's open that file. If I wanted, I could add a few messages, but I don't want to. So I can commit directly from to the branch that I have just created, which makes sense. Or I could create a new branch, but it makes sense to just commit it on that branch. And that's it, right? So if I have only one file, it's really easy to just create on your fork. You create a little branch to host that file that changed, and then you just submit a pull request. Basically, that's all you do. So the branch is called my review, and then you can go to the upstream repo, and then you start again. So from there, you go to pull requests and create a pull request. As you can see already, the interface knows that on my fork I have this branch that is called my review, so I could just click here and compare and pull request, and you go ahead. In this case, what we did before, we can also do from here, draft a pull request, click there, and in this case, this is the one file that changed is this one here, right? So this is the MD file that I'm adding to the review, to the conversation. So there you go. Now the reviewers can come here, see your commit, see the file that changed, and start the conversation about code that you wanted to have. Again, as they did before, they could make comments and start a review. So that is it. So we covered for these three scenarios, from having a little chunk of code to having a file or to having multiple files, how you could use either reprex or GitHub documents, maybe combined with RStudio.cloud. And the platforms of pull requests, which are great for discussing code, for having these conversations, or if the thing is tiny, then you may just share the code on Slack or GitHub issues or gists. And that's it. So what I didn't cover is what this idea of fetching the pull request, but it is also it's pretty simple. What I'm doing, but what I'm suggesting with that is that your reviewer they could simply, so let's say that your reviewer this is the RStudio of your reviewer, and then they are in a completely different project. What I mean by fetching the pull request? Well, they could so say also that they don't have any project called demo, so you remove it, delete it from there, right? So if they need to fetch your pull request or your repository, they could. So if you did, where is your code? Here, right? So they could do create from GitHub. This is a function from the use this package, and simply fetch it by giving the name of the owner and the name of the repository. In this case, because I am so this is the user. Let's use well, actually let's use it from there. So the destination directory, in this case, they can say where they want to kind of fetch this or clone this repository locally. Destination directory in this case is going to be in the home, and they could say just that. Okay, so they run that, and immediately they get that project locally. I say locally, but here I'm running on RStudio Cloud. But you get an idea. So they can, as long as your project is what you want to discuss is on GitHub, it is very easy for someone to clone it and have a copy of that locally. So what I got here is the master branch, which has not the pull request, but it wouldn't be difficult to get the pull request because although actually the pull requests are here on the origin, right, on my fork, so they could do PR fetch and the number of the pull request. Actually, you don't need quotes to fetch any pull request. So let's say what we wanted to do is to go to our fork and see pull requests. Actually, I don't have any pull requests to this one. Actually, no. What I wanted to do, let's go back to what I want to do is to fetch pull requests on the upstream. So let's go back to a different project and to removing the demo project here. So they say that the reviewer has nothing about the demo, and what they do is they create from GitHub from the upstream repository. To do risk investing, repository is called demo, and the destination directory is going to be this one here, and say that they choose to fork equals true. There you go. So that will create a clone of the upstream. I will also set, let's do git sitrep. It will also create a connection to the upstream and a connection to the origin. So now they can fetch the pull request that is on the upstream. So let's see that here. So if we go to the upstream, let's see what pull request we have. There you go. So if you created, say, this pull request via upload, this one here, is number 14, right? They could do easily enough to do PR fetch 14, and they will get, locally, no now just the like a reflection of the upstream of the master branch, but also, actually the PR. So here you see how the file that you added is here, which they could preview like that. Of course, this couldn't be as useful as having the RMD because this is the output. The MD could be more flexible, but you get the idea, right? So it is easy, which is one of the requirements of having productive conversations, for the reviewer to fetch your pull request, or even better, if you create the R environment for them so they don't have to install anything in their systems if they choose not to. So that is it. I look forward to your questions. This was a bit of a long video, but I wanted to make it like very detailed on the tools for basically to empower you to use them to maintain productive conversations about code. So here I'll give you a bunch of links to information that I found very useful in getting ready for this presentation. Thank you.